Hello again. I was up in Glasgow recently to have my car serviced, and while it was in the garage, I went for a walk. I went in by the cathedral and over what they call the Bridge of Sighs into the city necropolis. And there I came across this memorial to a man called William Miller, who wrote the rhyme, Wee Willie Winkie, and a lot of other children's poems and rhymes too, for which he became known as the laureate of the nursery. Do you remember Wee Willie Winkie? Wee Willie Winkie, running through the toon, upstairs and downstairs in his necht goon, chapping at the windies, crying at the lock, are all the bairnies in their bed, it's past 8 o'clock. I'm sure you remember it fine. What I didn't know until fairly recently is that while Wee Willie Winkie is a great song for children, it also has a message for adults. A friend told me that the poem was inspired by a well-known church elder who made it his business to go around his district on a Saturday night, checking that the members of his flock were in bed at a reasonable time so that they could be up early to get to church on a Sunday morning. Now, I don't know whether it's true or not. Certainly, in those far-off days of the mid-19th century, church attendance was expected of everyone, and if you missed a Sunday, your elder would make a point of finding out why and chastise you if you didn't have a good enough reason. The Scottish post-Reformation Presbyterianism from which our churches today are descended was pretty strict, rigid even, on things like that. For certain misdemeanours, you could be made to sit in front of the congregation on the cutty stool while the wrath of God was called down upon you from the pulpit. That happened to Robert Burns, our national poet. There was a similarity between those things and what happened in Jesus' day. The scribes and the Pharisees saw it as their duty to enforce the many rules and practices of the Jewish law, all sorts of things to do with the food you could eat, bodily functions that made you unclean and therefore unwelcome at worship, tithing of spices, making sacrifices, and of course, observing the 10 Commandments themselves. They got themselves into a right lather about Jesus, not just because he was gathering thousands around him with his new vision of the kingdom of heaven, but because he cured people on the Sabbath, associated with undesirables, forgave sins, and maybe most of all, called them out for turning the temple into a den of thieves. There's a danger, of course, in departing too far from the precepts of our faith and what it tells us about how we should live. But there's a danger, too, in becoming so hidebound in enforcing archaic rules that we lose sight of the love and grace of God. Everything Jesus did that so offended the scribes and the Pharisees was done because he put love and the actions that flow from love first in all he did. And his 2 great commandments stand to this day. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbour as yourself. Bye for now, and remember Wee Willie Winkie. Make sure you have an early night. May God bless you.